We have learned there is a new incoming Canadian Prime Minister. It is Mark Carney, who won the leadership contest tonight by a landslide, Hallie, getting 85.9% of the vote. He's the former governor of the Bank of Canada and Bank of England. And Canadians tonight, Hallie, are hopeful that Carney will steady the ship and offer a reset in their relationship with President Trump amid the trade war and threats about annexing Canada.
Mark Carney has won the race to succeed Justin Trudeau as Canada's Prime Minister, vowing to win the trade war against U.S. President Donald Trump as he takes charge of the country at a time of deep instability. Carney, whose background as a former central banker at the Bank of Canada and Bank of England has won him accolades for financial acumen, now finds himself at the helm of a nation determined to assert its economic independence against U.S. protectionist measures. The trade dispute ignited by President Donald Trump's recent imposition of 25% tariffs on Canadian and Mexican products has already rattled global markets and upended long-standing trade relationships. While Trump has characterized these tariffs as necessary to protect American industries and address national security concerns, Canadian leaders view them as an unwarranted assault on their nation's economic stability and sovereignty. During his electrifying victory speech delivered before a packed crowd in Ottawa, Carney made it unequivocally clear that Canada would not yield to U.S. pressure. "The Canadian government is rightly retaliating with our own tariffs," he declared. "My government will keep our tariffs on until the Americans show us respect and make credible, reliable commitments to free and fair trade." His forceful rhetoric resonated with an audience that has grown increasingly nationalistic amid growing fears of economic dependency on its southern neighbor. Carney's approach marks a distinct departure from the policies of his predecessor, Justin Trudeau, who, despite a lengthy tenure, faced mounting public dissatisfaction amid domestic challenges such as a persistent housing crisis and rising living costs. With the leadership contest now concluded by a staggering 86% vote share, Carney's mandate appears to be one of both renewal and confrontation. Renewal in redefining Canada's economic policy and confrontation in the face of an aggressive U.S. stance. The U.S. tariffs, which target a broad spectrum of goods from automobiles and machinery to agricultural products like orange juice and coffee, were intended by President Trump to serve as leverage in renegotiating trade deals. However, in a counter-move that underscores the mutual interdependence between the two economies, Canada swiftly imposed its own 25% tariffs on 30 billion Canadian dollars worth of American products. Sources indicate that Canadian officials are prepared to expand these tariffs to an additional 125 billion Canadian dollars of U.S. imports if the Trump administration does not reconsider its posture. Industry analysts warn that prolonged trade hostilities could have far-reaching consequences for both nations. Canada, whose economy is heavily intertwined with U.S. markets, risks significant disruptions if retaliatory measures spiral out of control. Yet, Carney's message is one of resilience and determination. "In trade, as in hockey, Canada will win," he proclaimed, employing a metaphor that not only captured the national imagination, but also underscored the competitive spirit ingrained in Canadian identity. Carney's background in financial governance has given him a reputation for calm, measured decision-making during crises. His tenure at both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England saw him navigating through turbulent economic periods, experiences that now serve as the backbone of his strategy in countering U.S. tariffs. His vision for Canada's economic future is one that is diversified and self-reliant, with an emphasis on bolstering domestic industries and reducing the country's reliance on a single trade partner. The Liberal Party's transformation under Carney's leadership is already visible. A sweeping change in strategy is apparent in his plans to liberalize interprovincial trade, an initiative aimed at breaking down the long-standing regulatory barriers that have stifled commerce within Canada. By streamlining trade between provinces and fostering closer economic ties within the country, Carney hopes to create a more robust domestic market that can better withstand external shocks. Beyond the immediate economic measures, Carney has signaled a willingness to engage in diplomatic efforts to reframe the trade dialogue. His government is expected to pursue a dual approach, maintaining a firm stance on tariffs while simultaneously seeking to open back channels with U.S. negotiators. This diplomatic overture is designed to prevent the trade war from escalating into a full-blown economic crisis, that could hurt consumers and businesses on both sides of the border. At the heart of Carney's message is a call for respect, an insistence that Canada must be treated as a sovereign nation with its own economic priorities and national interests. In his address, he took aim at President Trump's provocative comments about making Canada the 51st state, a notion that has inflamed nationalist sentiments in Ottawa and beyond. America is not Canada, and Canada never, ever will be part of America in any way, shape, or form, Carney asserted, a declaration that not only set the tone for his administration, but also resonated deeply with the Canadian public. This statement is emblematic of a broader political narrative unfolding in Canada, where a resurgence of national pride is now intertwined with economic policy. The trade dispute, rather than weakening Canada, appears to have galvanized a collective resolve to safeguard its way of life. Protests have erupted in several major cities, with demonstrators rallying behind slogans like "Buy Canadian" and demanding a renewed focus on domestic production. Political opponents, however, have seized on the opportunity to criticize Carney's lack of electoral experience. Some conservative figures have argued that his extensive career in the world of finance does not necessarily translate into the kind of political leadership required in a volatile trade environment. Despite these criticisms, Carney's overwhelming victory in the Liberal leadership contest, coupled with his clear policy directives, suggests that his message has struck a chord with a significant portion of the electorate. Across the political spectrum, reactions to Carney's aggressive tariff policy have been mixed. While many liberals and centrists praise the move as a necessary assertion of national sovereignty, some economists warn that prolonged trade conflicts could hurt both economies. The potential for a retaliatory spiral remains a significant risk, with each side's actions capable of triggering further countermeasures that may eventually lead to higher consumer prices and diminished international competitiveness. Internationally, Carney's stance has earned both admiration and caution. European Union officials have noted that unilateral tariffs, regardless of the justification, tend to disrupt global supply chains and lead to economic inefficiencies. Nevertheless, Carney's willingness to stand up to American pressure has been lauded as a demonstration of the kind of bold leadership needed in today's multipolar world, a world where economic power is increasingly contested. In light of the evolving trade war, Carney's administration is also exploring new economic partnerships beyond its traditional reliance on U.S. markets. Trade delegations are already being planned with key European, Asian, and Latin American economies, signaling a strategic pivot toward greater economic diversification. This move is seen as a proactive measure to mitigate the risks posed by a potential downturn in U.S.-Canada trade relations and to create new opportunities for Canadian businesses. Carney's victory, however, is not solely defined by his economic policies. His leadership marks a turning point in Canada's political landscape, offering a fresh alternative to the status quo that has long been dominated by conventional political paradigms. His promise to cap the size of the federal government, a sharp contrast to the expansion witnessed under Trudeau, signals an intention to streamline governance and focus on results rather than bureaucracy. This approach is expected to appeal to a wide swath of Canadians, particularly those disillusioned by what they perceive as an overextended government. The trade war itself has become a focal point of national debate, with widespread media coverage scrutinizing every move from both Washington and Ottawa. Opinion pieces and editorials across Canada have lauded Carney's measured yet assertive response, suggesting that his blend of economic expertise and national pride could usher in a new era of prosperity. Conversely, skeptics remain concerned about the long-term repercussions of sustained tariff battles, particularly if the situation escalates into a protracted diplomatic standoff. On the domestic front, Carney's policies have spurred vigorous debates among Canada's business communities. While some industry leaders welcome the protective measures as a way to shield local jobs and industries from unpredictable U.S. policies, others caution that excessive tariffs could disrupt supply chains and increase costs for manufacturers who depend on cross-border trade. This tension underscores the delicate balancing act that Carney must perform, defending Canada's interests without alienating key economic partners or stifling innovation. In addition to economic policy, Carney's remarks on national security have resonated with a populace increasingly wary of external threats. The Canadian government has signaled its intent to bolster border security, a move designed to counter criticisms from the U.S. regarding immigration and drug trafficking. Although these issues have long been sensitive points in Canada-U.S. relations, Carney's articulation of a robust, sovereign approach has reinvigorated discussions about national identity and self-reliance. While the immediate focus remains on the trade war, Carney's broader vision for Canada extends into areas of infrastructure and clean energy. His administration has already begun drafting policies aimed at accelerating major energy projects, including pipelines, and investing in renewable energy initiatives. Such projects are intended not only to stimulate economic growth, but also to reduce Canada's dependence on fossil fuels, a goal that has gained traction amid global environmental concerns. Amid these sweeping policy initiatives, the impending general election looms as both a challenge and an opportunity for Carney's new government. With the Liberals now enjoying a resurgence in public opinion, the upcoming polls will serve as a critical test of whether his confrontational approach to the trade war can translate into lasting political support. Opposition parties, led by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, are already mobilizing their bases, accusing Carney of echoing the old guard rather than offering genuine reform. In the coming weeks, Canada's political landscape is expected to shift dramatically as Carney's government takes shape. His promise to maintain tariffs until the U.S. adopts a more respectful and equitable trading stance has set a clear agenda that will dominate policy discussions. For many Canadians, this stands as a reaffirmation of national pride, a declaration that their country will not be bullied by external forces, no matter how economically powerful they may seem. International trade experts are watching closely as well. The evolving dynamics between Canada and the United States are likely to serve as a bellwether for similar disputes around the globe. As countries grapple with the challenges of globalization and shifting economic power centers, Carney's policies may well become a model for those seeking to assert sovereignty in an increasingly interconnected world. In summary, Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney's bold declaration to continue retaliatory tariffs against U.S. goods encapsulates a new era for Canada, one defined by economic resilience, strategic diversification, and unwavering national pride. With a clear mandate from the Liberal Party and a populace energized by the promise of change, Canada is poised to confront the challenges of the modern trade war head-on. While the road ahead remains fraught with uncertainty, Carney's leadership signals a determined commitment to defending Canadian interests in a rapidly evolving global landscape.